Kroger had a couple of big reasons for moving to Agile. They faced a lot of competition from their competitors. They're looking at building value with their business, and they needed to increase their speed. So it was basically quality, time to market, and being competitive. They picked a mobile application project, and they picked that for a variety of reasons. One, it was relatively speaking self-contained. It also was something that was critical to their success, but it allowed for a small team to get started. So because of those three capabilities or three attributes, it was easy to pick that as a starting project, and they could look at it from a standpoint of what they could deliver without looking at dependencies on other teams. You know, a lot of Agile adoptions often have cultural challenges because of the organization and how they're structured. In the case of Kroger, you know, the biggest challenge is really related to team structure. They had very strong roles. Also, they had some organizational challenges with not necessarily enough executive support, but lukewarm executive support, which I think has warmed up over time. And realistically, they had a history of starting with Agile in terms of Scrum projects and not being as successful, so it was warranted for them to say, show me. We had to look at first how the team was structured. We had to pick different practices than just out-of-the-box Scrum, for example. We had to look at how to blend the team. The team also had some issues with availability because in many Agile projects, you're completely dedicated. In the case of this project with Kroger, they weren't. So we actually had to come up with a few different techniques to make sure we were estimating properly their real resource availability. We also had to have conversations with the executives to talk about ways of at least, if not eliminating, removing some of the barriers, and we were very successful in doing that. Well, there was a couple of things that we had to do. We had to first, the Agile team that when I came on board was, doing a lot of good things. They were, definitely doing some Agile practices very well, but communicating upper to upper management wasn't. So one of the things we had to do was figure a way to broadcast or communicate more of the progress, risks, issues, and concerns in a way that made the project manager and the people above feel comfortable with what was going on. This wasn't a fake project. This was a real project. So there was real money at stake, and there was real sense of urgency. So it wasn't like this some kind of pilot project that you can just throw away. So there was real stakeholders who saw a need and wanted to see value. So we did that. We also had conversations with the stakeholders and upper management to really talk about how things on their end would have to change in order to free the Agile team to be successful. So between those two, they felt that they had more input in terms of how the Agile process was really being adopted, as well as communication on what was happening so that they didn't feel like they were blind to what was going on. A lot of times it's basically communication issues that cause Agile teams to fail. They're not communicating their successes, and to some extent they're not communicating their challenges such that where people can all want to help and step in. There was actually some very good results achieved. The first thing was it was a win. They were able to demonstrate that using a disciplined Agile approach, they were able to actually achieve and be successful delivering a project while communicating metrics and value to the business as well as their upper management so that they could understand how to steer that project. Secondly, the skills of the resources improved. There was some cross-functional training going on within the team so that each resources within the team grew individually. The Scrum Master and the project managers learned how to better do their roles in an interactive fashion, splitting responsibilities basically. And also from a delivery standpoint, they were able to deliver faster. So usually within a Kroger project, it took 18 months to 2 years before anything of substance came out, and they were able to get things out within 3 months on average, and a lot of their capabilities were at a less cost. And they were able even to show what cost they were doing. So it gave more transparency to the process. Well, actually, there's a lot of different IBM products and services in the house with Kroger. Initially, when we started with this pilot project, Kroger was using RTC, or Rational Team Concert. But one of the things that I recognized when we were on site looking at the team was they actually had too many different tools in play. And so what we decided to do was start a transformation that was basically tool agnostic to allow them to learn the practices and foundations before we actually started reintroducing the tools. The product owner and the BA were able to use RTC to help identify and groom a backlog and communicate that to the team. But then we allowed the Scrum Master to use capabilities or tools that they felt comfortable with versus forcing them to use RTC. So one of the things that we did as we approached this process is we first listened and tried to understand their positions. We then identified the practices that provided value to each of the different roles. We focused on the roles of the product owner. We talked about ways in improving the communication with the team. We looked at the project manager, which was not necessarily a standard Agile role, but a required role within Kroger, and talked about ways of blending their responsibilities with the Scrum Master. And then we looked at the team and identified practices or techniques to improve their ability to execute. So there were basically three measures, productivity from a velocity standpoint, cost in terms of what we're, how we're spending our money, and the satisfaction of the business in terms of value being delivered. And we didn't use velocity from the standpoint of, you did 30 points this sprint, and next sprint you have to do 30. We started looking at the delta in terms of improvement, sort of like seeing if there was a percentage improvement, and if there was, we started looking at reasons why. Likewise, if the velocity wasn't being improved, we looked at what things might have been influencing that. So we dovetailed that with retrospective data so that we could understand how to better capture that. But that was only one of the measures. We also looked at cost. Many of the projects within Kroger, as I mentioned, took 2 years. So when we were tracking, people's resources and utilization, we were looking at what value was being delivered faster without spending all the budget. So we were able to deliver in 3 months, the first release, and then maybe 2.5 months the second release, value that the other team would have taken 2 years to deliver anything. So you got partial value early, which is better than nothing or something 2 years down the road when requirements might change or the situation might change. Also, we looked at satisfaction of the product owner in terms of, and that wasn't really a measurement as more of a gut feel. The product owner felt very happy about the collaboration and about the ability to change or modify the strategy or requirements is a part of the Agile approach. And they felt value when they were able to get feedback early and help direct the ship in terms of giving exactly what they wanted. Whereas in a waterfall approach, they would have had to wait 2 years and then say, this isn't what I wanted, and now it's all the budget is spent and 2 years is gone.